Imagine this. Every time you pour yourself a glass of water, you make one simple assumption: that it's safe to drink. You probably don't think about where it came from, whether it contains harmful microbes, or what might be living inside it. Modern water systems do that work for you. Now imagine all of that disappears. No running water, no water treatment plants, no filters, no bottled water. Just you, thousands of years ago. You've been walking for hours beneath the sun. Your throat is dry. At last, you find a river. The water looks clear, cold, refreshing. But appearances can be deceiving. Long before people understood bacteria or parasites, choosing the wrong water source could lead to serious illness. So how did our ancestors stay hydrated without modern sanitation or any knowledge of germs? The answer wasn't luck.
It was observation. Generation after generation, people learned which water sources were usually safer, which ones to avoid, and eventually discovered something even more remarkable: a way to turn simple ingredients into drinks that were often more reliable than untreated surface water. Not because they understood microbiology, they didn't, but because they noticed a pattern. Some drinks consistently caused fewer problems than others. That single observation helped shape agriculture, trade, religion, and some of the world's earliest civilizations. Because the story of what ancient humans drink is really the story of how humanity learned to survive, one careful observation at a time. For thousands of years, finding water wasn't enough. Finding safe water was the real challenge. Ancient humans didn't choose water at random. They paid attention. Fast-moving springs were often preferred over still ponds. Clear mountain streams were usually trusted more than stagnant pools. They watched where animals drank. They noticed which water sources stayed fresh after heavy rain, and which ones were more likely to make people sick.
No one understood bacteria. No one had ever seen a parasite. But people didn't need microscopes to recognize patterns. If a certain water source repeatedly made people ill, they remembered. If another kept families healthy, they returned. Generation after generation, that knowledge became part of survival. Then, around 10,000 years ago, something unexpected happened. Humans discovered fermentation. At first, it probably wasn't intentional. Grains, fruit, or honey left sitting under the right conditions began to transform on their own. The taste changed, the smell changed, and surprisingly, people often became sick less frequently after drinking these fermented beverages than untreated surface water. Without realizing why, they kept making them. What do you think changed human history more? Finding clean water, or discovering fermentation? Comment just one: water or fermentation. As farming spread across the ancient world, fermented drinks became part of everyday life. In Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt, beer wasn't simply a drink for celebrations. It was part of the daily diet.
Workers received beer along with bread as part of their rations. Historical records even show that beer distributions were carefully measured and recorded. For people performing hard physical labor, it provided both hydration and valuable calories. Children also drank weak, low-alcohol beer in some communities, especially when safer drinking water wasn't always available. Elsewhere, people found different solutions. The Greeks and Romans often mixed wine with water. Across the Eurasian steppes, nomadic tribes fermented mare's milk into a drink known as kumis. In South America, communities brewed chicha from maize. In East Asia, people gradually developed fermented rice drinks that would later become part of long cultural traditions. Different civilizations, different ingredients, different climates, yet the same goal: finding a more dependable way to stay hydrated.
protecting families from the risk hidden in untreated water. Without realizing it, people on opposite sides of the world were solving the same survival problem in remarkably similar ways. Something remarkable was happening. Communities separated by thousands of miles, with no contact between one another, kept arriving at similar ideas. Not because someone taught them, because careful observation kept leading them toward the same solution. Long before science explained fermentation, human experience already had. And that simple discovery would do far more than change what people drank. It would influence economies, religions, and eventually the rise of civilization itself. But fermentation didn't just change what people drank. It changed entire civilizations. When something helps people survive, it quickly becomes more than a simple tool. It becomes tradition.
In ancient Mesopotamia, people honored Ninkasi, the goddess of beer. One of the oldest surviving poems in history was written in her name, and it also served as a recipe for brewing beer. In ancient Egypt, beer was closely connected to daily life, religious ceremonies, and even burial rituals. It wasn't respected because people wanted entertainment. It was respected because it helped communities survive. What's even more remarkable is that similar discoveries appeared across the world. Ancient China developed fermented rice drinks. Communities in the Caucasus fermented grapes into wine. In South America, people brewed chicha from maize. These civilizations were separated by thousands of miles, yet many arrived at remarkably similar solutions. Not because they shared the same technology, but because they faced the same challenge.
How do you find water you can trust? How do you preserve it? How do you reduce the risk of becoming sick? Long before anyone understood bacteria, people learned to trust repeated experience. That may be one of humanity's greatest strengths. We don't always discover the explanation first. Sometimes we discover the pattern. Then we teach it to others. Generation after generation, small observations became shared knowledge, and shared knowledge became civilization. Perhaps that's the real story behind every ancient drink. It was never just about satisfying thirst. It was about solving problems, adapting to an unpredictable world, turning careful observation into a survival advantage. Again and again, that ability allowed humans to thrive where stronger animals could not. Today, clean drinking water reaches billions of people with the turn of a faucet. It's so ordinary that most of us rarely think about the generations of trial and error that made it possible. Every safe drink we enjoy today is built on thousands of years of human curiosity, careful observation, and lessons passed from one generation to the next. Before you go, which would you trust most if you lived 5,000 years ago? A mountain spring? Ancient beer? Diluted wine? Comment just one. Spring, beer, or wine? And if you found this story fascinating, the next one explores an even tougher challenge. How did ancient humans survive before medicine? No hospitals? No antibiotics? No painkillers? Yet somehow, our ancestors kept one another alive long enough to build the world we know today. I'll see you in the next story.